The first heavy raindrops struck the windshield of the old blue pickup as Elias turned onto the empty county road. The sky was the color of wet slate, and the wipers struggled against the downpour. He glanced sideways. Mateo sat slumped against the passenger door, hoodie up, staring at nothing. They hadn't spoken since the gas station, where Mateo had asked in a small voice if they could please not go home tonight. Elias had simply said yes. Lightning split the horizon. The truck rocked in the wind. Elias gripped the wheel tighter. "You ever think the sky just wants to erase everything on nights like this?" Mateo asked quietly. His voice was barely a whisper above the storm. "Only when I'm driving with you," Elias answered, the ghost of a smile in his voice. They had been friends since 7th grade, since the day Elias dropped his lunch tray and Mateo silently helped pick up the scattered tater tots. No big speeches, no dramatic promises, just a quiet that felt safe. 14 years later, that silence still belonged to them, even when it carried more weight than words ever could. A sudden gust of wind shoved the truck sideways. A branch snapped and rolled across the road in front of them, dark and twisted like a broken bone. Elias swerved hard to avoid it. The tires squealed on the wet asphalt. "Pull over," Mateo said, his voice flat but firm. Elias found a spot beside a deep, water-filled ditch and killed the engine. The world outside vanished, replaced by the relentless, percussive sound of rain pounding the metal roof of the truck. It was a roar that shut everything else out. Mateo pushed his hood back. In the dim light from the dashboard, the damage was stark. His left eye was swollen, completely shut, the skin around it a dark, angry purple. A fresh, raw split marked his lower lip. He had climbed into the truck 3 hours earlier with only one word: drive. And Elias had no questions, no hesitation. He didn't used to hit this hard, Mateo said, his eyes fixed on the dashboard as if he were reading a script there. "I think he knows I'm really leaving this time." "You're not going back there tonight," Elias replied. His tone left no room for argument. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a fact. Mateo gave a tired, humorless, "That's why I called you." Hotlines don't have trucks. Another flash of lightning illuminated the cab, freezing them in a brilliant, momentary tableau. In that stark white light, Elias saw Mateo's hands clenched into tight fists, still braced for an impact that wasn't coming anymore. A wave of something heavy and cold settled in Elias's chest. "I should have done something sooner," he said, the words feeling inadequate, small. Mateo finally turned his head. "You did," he answered, his voice rough. "You stayed. Every time I vanished for a week, you were still there when I came back. You didn't ask. You didn't judge. You just were. That's enough." More than enough. Elias reached into the back seat and pulled out the old, scratchy wool blanket his mom always kept in the truck. It smelled faintly of her dog and engine oil. He dropped it over Mateo's lap without a word. "Still smells like wet dog," Mateo muttered, but he drew it around his shoulders anyway, pulling it tight. They sat there in the drumming rain, the only sound their shared breathing and the storm's fury. The small cab of the pickup felt like the only safe place in the world. "I keep thinking if I leave for good, I'm abandoning my mom," Mateo said after a long silence. The confession hung in the air between them. She still believes she can fix him. She keeps saying he's a good man underneath it all. "Sometimes staying is the most dangerous thing you can do for someone," Elias said quietly. "You can't fix a person who doesn't want to be fixed, and you can't light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. That applies to everyone, even your mom." Mateo swallowed hard, a visible, painful motion in the dim light. "I'm scared I'll turn into him," he whispered, the words so quiet Elias had to lean in to hear them. "I've got his temper. Everyone says so. What if it's just in me?" Elias turned to face him fully, ignoring the rain and the dark. "You are not him," he said, his voice firm and clear. "You have spent your entire life actively making sure you're not. You feel guilty, you feel empathy, you feel remorse. That's the difference. That's the whole damn difference. What if it's not enough?" Mateo's voice was breaking. "Then I'll remind you," Elias said, a little of his old, familiar sarcasm creeping back in. "Every single day, if I have to." "I'm annoying like that?" "You know it's true." Mateo let out a small, broken sound. It was half a laugh, half a sob, and all exhaustion. The rain, as if sensing the shift, began to ease its assault, the roar softening to a steady, almost gentle patter. Hey, Elia said, changing the subject. Remember that raft we built out of old pallets and duct tape in 8th grade? Mateo snorted. A genuine, if weak, sound of amusement sank in less than 4 minutes. Mrs. Delgado's pond still hates us for all the duckweed we tracked into her. Yarda! But we didn't drown, Elias pointed out, and we laughed the whole way home, covered in mud and pond scum. We looked like swamp monsters. Mateo looked at him, then really looked with his one good eye. A flicker of the old Mateo was there. You always find the part that wasn't awful. Someone has to, Elias said simply. The storm was tiring now, the thunder rumbling off into the distance. The world was slowly coming back into focus. Where are we going? Mateo asked, his voice steadier. My cousin's place in... He has a spare room. The coffee is terrible, but he won't ask any questions. No one will bother you. Mateo closed his eyes, a long, slow blink of surrender and relief. Okay. They sat a little longer, listening to the night grow quieter, the air washed clean. Thanks, Mateo said, his voice soft again, for not asking why I didn't leave sooner. Didn't need to, Elias replied, keeping his eyes on the road ahead. I already knew. Mateo opened his eyes. Knew what? You were waiting for someone to believe you could. Mateo gave a small, certain nod. It was all the confirmation Elias needed. Elias turned the key. The old truck's engine coughed, sputtered, and then settled into its familiar, comforting rumble. He put it in drive. Ready? He asked. Mateo pulled the wool blanket tighter around his shoulders, like a piece of armor. Let's go. The pickup rolled forward, its headlights cutting a path through the wet moon-streaked night. Behind them, the storm grumbled. Softened now, its power spent, as if it understood it had already lost this fight. They weren't safe yet. They weren't whole yet. But they were together. And tonight, that was enough. If you or someone you know is in a situation like this, please remember you are not alone. There are people who want to help. You can reach out to a domestic violence hotline or a trusted friend or family member. Your safety is the most important thing. Thanks for watching, and take care of each other.